You're listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. You guys are checking me out live from the K-Sun Studios out here in Wichita, Kansas. You know the rap sheet. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Drew Duncan 83. Kansas City Chiefs are now the lone undefeated football team in all the NFL, following the Buffalo Bills finding a way to defeat the Atlanta Falcons. Which, by the way, Tyrod Taylor and the Bills are red hot. Wonder who could have seen that coming. Boy, how about Alex Smith? How about Travis Kelce? How about Kareem Hunt? How about Houston? How about Jones? How about Peters, who, even though he struggled last night, I think is still very much a big part of this football team? You know, the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that, when you look at them right now, you're seeing everything. You're seeing the team that can win it when the game is on the line. You're seeing the team who can blow somebody out. You're seeing the team who can play great defense. You're seeing a team that can be patient and run the football. You're seeing a team that could break it wide open and create big plays down the field. You're seeing the entire package from the Kansas City Chiefs. And though things looked pretty bleak last night, they were able to get it done. Started out down for the better part of that football game. And the thing that impressed me the most, and it was crazy because I'm sitting there watching the game with my buddy, and I was like, man, I feel like Kansas City's had the ball the entire second half. And eventually they brought it up, and he just kind of looked at me. Did you know that Kansas City ended up with a time of possession of 37 minutes and 9 seconds compared to Washington, who had the football for 22 minutes and 51 seconds. Now, here's two things in two ways that you're able to look at that. Number one, you can look at that and go, Washington has a legitimate offense. Let's keep it real. And you've only got the ball for 20 minutes. That means you didn't have that many possessions. And whatever you did have it, you made the most out of everything that you could with the ball in your hands. And number two, you could look at that and go, well, the Kansas City Chiefs held on to the football. They beat up on that defense of Washington, and they let them stay on that football field for as long as they wanted to be on there. I mean, it was a hell of a game to watch last night. The final score doesn't indicate how good of a football game it really was. Do I think Houston should have, by the way, ran that last little fumble recovery for a touchdown? No, I think he should have just gone down. But, you know, in the moment, who all really knows what we would do? So I'm just going to get that out of the way for anybody's out there listening that's a Washington fan that goes, yo, Houston, and you know, I'm 50-50 on it. I don't know what I would have done. Obviously, you can look at it and go, the right thing to do is to just go down. And I think Andy Reid acknowledged that basically by taking a knee instead of kicking the extra point. The point is this. Going back to my original thought here. When you look at time of possession, you can legitimately tell that Washington has got a good offense. They're balanced. Kirk Cousins can push the ball upfield. And Kirk Cousins made play with his legs last night. Yeah, I think what he did was he took advantage of a team in situations that said, man, there's no way in hell that Kirk Cousins is going to start pushing the ball upfield with his legs. Pfft, right. Old Gumby legs over there. That's going to happen. Well, it did 2 or 3 different times. And I think Washington, because obviously right now, how can you not say that Kansas City's not the best team in football when they're undefeated? They beat the defending Super Bowl champs. They beat the Chargers, which is not a great win, but it's a divisional win. They've beat Washington. They've beat Philadelphia, who, if I'm not mistaken, is number 1 in their division. And if I remember correctly, Washington is number 2 in the division. And Washington has already beaten the Raiders. So when Washington sticks with the best team in the NFL, you have to look at it and go, they're pretty damn good. And it should have been a catch in the end zone, by the way. Washington should have been able to come up with that ball, and they should have been able to put the game nearly out of reach. Now, look, I know a lot of people say that it would have affected the game differently, and I think that it would have. But Alex Smith still made a hell of a play on his legs at the end of that football game. The only thing I didn't like from Alex Smith was the fact that he didn't get out of bounds and he tried to cut it back to the inside. Start thinking with his, instead of his mind. You got to get out of bounds in that situation. And that is something that even though they won this football game, they're going to go back and film study and they're going to look at that and go, dude, next time, get out of bounds, bro. Because he was able to slip by an initial defender who I think thought was tricked into believing that Smith was going to just run out of bounds. And so he went half-assed on him, and Alex Smith was able to turn that into a big gain. It was a smart play by Alex Smith. By the way, did you see the wide out on that play as well? When Alex Smith was getting ready to cut upfield, the wide receiver from the Chiefs turned around and acted as though he was open in order to keep the defender trailing him. That's just great field awareness. That was an all-around good play at the end to get Kansas City in position. And so because I think that play still would have happened, I think the Chiefs would have at least been in a position to score a touchdown and win the football game. Now, would it have been more difficult? Yeah. But they had 2 timeouts in that moment. And hey, how about giving credit to a rookie field goal kicker? A guy that was brought up from the Carolina Panthers practice squad, that his only playing time had been in the preseason. He had no NFL long. He had Georgia Bulldog longest career kick. Come on. I think we watched what appears to be right now 2 of the better teams in the NFL. And I think Washington is primed to make a run with Philadelphia. I think everybody saw that first game in opening week, including myself, watched the Eagles play, watched as they played Washington. And I think we all walked away going, Washington is the same team this year that they have been over the last 10 years. They're not going to do anything. They're not going anywhere. There's no chance for a playoff. Even if they do get there, they're going to get beat in the first round. I think we all kind of looked at it and said, Philadelphia's a team. Carson Wentz is the guy. And it's going to boil down to the Eagles and Cowboys. But I think we could have all been sadly mistaken. And to me, if it does turn out that way, then that only makes the Kansas City Chiefs look like a stronger team. Because Washington has not had an easy 4 games. This is why I preach over and over again that the first 4 games of the year, that'll tell me. After week 4, you have a better idea of where teams are at. Because now we're getting into October. And this is when you start playing your best football. And for what I saw last night, it looked like Kansas City and Washington may already be there. Kirk Cousins showed a lot of fortitude to push that ball up the field with his legs the way that he did. And no, he gave it everything that he had. It just wasn't enough. Kansas City just made a couple of more plays. And see, and that's the thing in the NFL. It doesn't take, what was it, Doug Flutie? Doug Flutie, who played in the NFL and played Canadian football, he said, the biggest difference that I noticed is in Canada, you have to make 30 to 40 really big plays. I feel like in the NFL, you have to make 10 to 15 big plays. And Kansas City made those 10 or 15 plays, and Washington made those 5 or 10 big plays. And look, again, you had to give credit to Washington. When Kansas City took the lead initially, second half, long drive, Washington, they come out firing, boom, touchdown, 2 plays. But see, though, it also worked to their disadvantage. Kansas City had 2 very long drives in that football game that I think knocked the wind out of Washington's defense. And despite the fact that they actually played very good for a majority of the football game, they just weren't able to close the deal because at the end of the game, You could see hands on their hips. They were tired. They were beat down. And I think if that game would have gone into overtime, I really think that the Kansas City Chiefs would have won. I really do. And I believe that because I think that the defense was just too tired. That's, of course, if they had gotten the ball first. I think Kansas City would have been able to march down the field and get a touchdown. I really do. I don't think Washington defensively had enough to stay with them in an overtime situation. And I think the thing that I like most right now about Washington is Terrell Pryor. I mean, that guy converted to wide receiver from quarterback, and I haven't heard any complaints. I haven't heard him, give me the ball more. I should be a quarterback. And none of this stuff. And the guy at one point was a starting quarterback in this league. And they have converted him to wide receiver, and they have made him a very good one. He's had to make up for Deshaun Jackson being gone. He's got the size, the strength. I think his quarterback knowledge and understanding what a quarterback may be thinking in certain situations helps make him a better blocker down the field. We saw that a couple of times. Whereas the Kansas City Chiefs are concerned, what are you going to say? Kelsey, another 100-yard game. Patience. So now we've seen the explosion. Now we've seen the patience. So how do you beat them? They're beatable. It's going to happen. But how do you do it? There were times when I thought that Kansas City was a little conservative last night. There were times when I saw the Washington team load the box in on them, and they still wouldn't take any chances down the field. That kind of bothered me. Alex Smith did miss some throws deep. There were a couple of times, though, when the player wasn't really there. But I think for the most part, when you see a team, though, and you're watching film study on them, and you go, how do I beat these guys? What do I need to do? You look, and you go, well, okay, they're explosive, so I just slow them down. Well, then they get slowed down, and they grind out tough yardage. But they're able to convert third downs and hang on to the football. Well, you go, okay, maybe I speed up the pace on offense. Well, then you're making it harder on your defense. And we saw that with Washington. Long drive, Kansas City. 2-play score, Washington. Another long drive, Kansas City. So how do you beat them? They are beatable. Nobody's unbeatable. But I still think the problem lies within the offensive line. And the fact that Kansas City, to me, I've still seen some inconsistency in some football games to where they're not playing as a unit for a full four. Those are the only two things that I maintain about the Kansas City Chiefs I don't like. I think bringing back West also kind of saw an altered game plan. And I think that Kareem Hunt, I know that West was the starter going into the season, but the way that we've seen things shake out, I think Hunt needs to be your feature back. And I don't think that there needs to be any ifs, ands, or whats about it. And I don't think that anybody on the team should have any ifs, ands, or whats about it, particularly West. And when I look at West, at some point, you're just going to have to man up a little bit and say, everything that you guys were doing before I came back was working. We need to stick with that. Because I'm about team and I'm about winning. Plug me in where you can. And they did. They got it to him a couple times on some swing routes. Some of those plays were effective, some screen plays to him. But those are also plays that we were seeing Kareem Hunt in. Now, granted, it's good in the sense of, hey, back Kareem Hunt off a little bit. Don't get him so many touches. Obviously, we want to keep tread on the tires. We don't want to wear him down too fast or, overuse him. So in that aspect, I could agree with it. But I believe that Kareem Hunt needs to be the feature back because I could not believe last night that at the end of that football game, it was West that was in and not Hunt. That really boggled my mind. Because while it worked, I was under the impression that they were going to put West in the backfield, line up Kelsey and Hunt in the slot, put Tyreek on the outside and say, figure it out, defense. So we'll see. Obviously, whatever they did worked, but that was mainly Alex Smith being able to get upfield too. This is the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Drew Duncan83. I'm live from the K-Sun Studios out here in Wichita, Kansas. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. When we come back on the flip side, LeVar Ball's got another sound bite. Ooh, what a big surprise, right? To everybody. We're going to talk about it right after this. Don't you dare touch that dial.